Boo-doo-boo. Boo-doo-boo-boo-boo-doo-doo-doo. Eep op ork ah ah. Eep op ork ah ah. And that means I love you. Eep op ork ah ah. Eep op ork. You guys remember that song? Eep op ork ah ah. I'll give you a hint. The musical artist was Jet Screamer. Eep op ork ah ah. You remember it was Jane Jetson. In fact, I seem to remember George Jetson having quite a drum solo in, I believe it was in that episode. George Jetson, meet George Jetson. His boy Elroy, daughter Judy, Jane his wife. Anyway, good morning. This is the Animation Truman Show. Nothing special today other than just plain old wonderful gut level ink and paint. And by the way, Darren T gets kudos this morning for reminding me of a hotkey in Krita that I actually used to know. And as I told him on the Discord, it never assimilated. I never used it enough to make it a habit, and I had simply forgotten it. But what it is the slash key, which is like your question mark. The slash key lets you just toggle between two brushes. And I told him, I said, look, if you actually look at if you do the math on this, think about this. What I've been doing, I like to lasso erase, so I'll hit G and E. And how many times just in the last 2 days have I complained that Krita misses the E key? Like I hit the G and it misses the E, and I have to hit it again. Not only that, but how many times have I hit the B key to go back into brush mode, and I forget to hit E again to get out of erase mode? Just crazy. I mean, that happens hundreds of times a day. You start adding that up, and holy cow, it actually adds up. Sorry, I just hit the M key. So the slash key is going to prove to be extremely helpful because it's right next to the greater than, lesser than, or you could say comma and period symbol or keys, which let us toggle between our animated keyframes. And then to the left of that is the M key, which flips the canvas. And to the left of that is the N key, which switches us back to full size. So it's pretty ergonomic. But yeah, with the slash key, I can choose my eraser of choice, which is that one. And it's so big, but yet it scales, as you can see, depending on how hard I press. So I can do a fine bit of erasing or press hard and do a lot, right? So I can work with that. That's a good eraser for me. And holy cow, that means I actually can begin to habitualize myself away from using the freehand path tool in erase mode for probably most of my erasing, or as Darren would say, my erasing. So, no, I mean that's huge. That's actually huge. You can't overstate what a big deal one simple hotkey that does the right thing can be in, because as I say, if you do it hundreds of times a day, it begins to actually bite into your workflow. So I could totally see, now doing it using this, I can pencil test something, and then when I realize that I've drawn the character horribly and this guy doesn't look right, I can just instantly, instead of thinking about how to salvage it, just get it out of there really fast. Boom, 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 gone. Just try again. That fluidity of working with your drawing is really, really hard to overstate how valuable that is. So, anyway, thanks, Darren. You are so completely the man. You're the man in my book. So if anybody comes here today and is not subscribed to the Darren T YouTube channel, well, shame on you. You need to get over there right now and subscribe. At least if you want to ever learn anything about OpenTunes or Tahoma 2D and or be part of a fairly vibrant community of mostly fledgling animators, some more accomplished than others, obviously. So today is just ink day. Today is ink day. I'm inking, baby. In this case, I am actually going directly over the red lines. I could put it on another layer. It really doesn't matter. Do it this way, do it that way. It's all about the same. Because for me, Alt-M gives me the, there you go, color to alpha. Pretty powerful. Pretty powerful, frankly. So, for those who wonder, well, Dave, why aren't you using OpenTunes or Tahoma? Basically, no particular reason. No particular reason, friends. I just seem to be getting more work done in Krita that I'm happy with, and it kind of, despite the amount of complaining I tend to do about Krita, it is the case that you sort of monitor yourself, right, for annoyance. At least I do, like annoyance level, like how much during the course of the day am I actually sort of being stopped in my tracks and gritting my teeth and going, because as I sort of said yesterday, I'm just a creative guy I just want to move forward, I just want to do the work. I don't want the tools getting in my way. And so of course sometimes they do, and sometimes they're buggy and this and that and the other, but I will generally stand by my advice over the last few months to people who are like newbies asking what software they should really invest themselves into. Generally speaking, for most people, if you're trying to do most kinds of animation that I suppose the average newbie might want to do, generally OpenTunes is going to be your best choice, just because of the combination of the learning curve, the community, the stability of the software, and the did I say the capabilities? The capabilities of the tool as well. Basically, as an aggregate package, Tahoma 2D or OpenTunes is going to be your best bet. Krita's a close second, and for some people, depending on their bent towards painting, Krita would actually be the better choice. But for me, I've done one flaming heck of a lot of work in both, and they're nice. They're both wonderful. When I really just want to hunker down, anchor in, and just get stuff done, I just tend to come back to Krita, especially if I'm starting from scratch like I am here, doing the pencil test and everything. If I'm doing a lot of reuse and leveraging of old shots, that's when I'll go through a streak of maybe a couple weeks where I'm doing tons of shots in Tahoma 2D. But to be fair, that is actually what bit me in the tail about 2 weeks ago and led me to go, I just want to like strangle Tahoma, because it essentially lost track of a bunch of, well, without getting into the details, bottom line is that a number of shots that used the same image sequence, somehow Tahoma got confused and lost track of the location of some images, and I had 9 shots that all had to be sort of quickly repurposed in Krita. So it really depends on your perspective whether it's better or worse that when you have an image in Krita, that image, this panel that I'm drawing right now, is baked into the Krita file, okay, as opposed to referencing an image that's on your hard drive. Is that better or is that worse? It totally depends on your perspective. I would say theoretically, if your images are being referenced externally, theoretically that's probably better because it just facilitates reuse of assets in some ways. But it also depends on your software being absolutely exquisite at keeping track of external assets. And Tahoma is very, very good. It's not perfect, but it is very, very good. So let's not cast aspersions for no good reason. Okay, so this really just needs to be probably about there. Well, that's a tween, so I guess it doesn't matter. It looked a little skewed, but then again, I'm like, well, in animation, we often skew things as they move quickly from one place to another. So that's actually, the fact that that's skewed right there probably doesn't matter at all. So anyway. Okay, let's hit the N key, zoom out a bit, and see what we are actually doing today. Well, it's a 160 frame shot. So that would be 20 seconds of show. Some of it we're going to be able to pull, like for that stuff of Vespigi, we're going to be able to pull a layer out of another Krita file. So, yeah, basically, it's just ink and paint time. So, ink and paint, ink and paint. All right, why don't we use the let's use the Bezier curve tool here for his hatty hat. Just cause we can, and it'll make it a little bit, probably slightly more consistent. I probably should turn on the skins in this case so I can see what I'm doing, and it will be easier to see if I select this area that's already been inked and then just run the, I can go ahead and run the color to alpha just to get it so that the onion skins are a little clearer. It doesn't seem to be helping that much, if the truth be known, but what I guess I could do the same thing here since his face has been inked. So Control F should do the trick. Okay, that's okay for this little section. I'll just get his hat thingy in there. So there, now it's crystal clear, isn't it? Did I grab the Bezier? Yeah, so here we go. Now if you want those undeniably crystal clear anime style ink, I mean, I shouldn't say anime style, frankly. Western, Nickelodeon or those types of cartoons usually are a better example of super crisp ink. But the Bezier curve tool is definitely good for that. Now, of course, in this case, you select those. We could just select this, and I think if I hit Alt and go like that, it actually excludes this. So now I can go Control Shift V and just move this into position. Probably what I want to do is take this anchor point, put it there, so I can then rotate that around, something like that. And then we go back to the B key, and in fact, I will grab my eraser. And there it is. Okay, so now we've got one more frame for which we need to do that. So Control Shift V, that pastes it into the same layer. And what I'm actually going to do here is erase that first, then reselect it and hit the A key. Let's anchor that little spot right there, move the rotation anchor point, and then just move that baby into place. Now, how the heck the this wound up down there, I'm not quite sure. Okay, and actually, now that I look at this, there's one more thing I need to do that's kind of important. Yeah, I would say here, let's make a selection on this, and let's do a really broad liquefy on it. I want to flatten that out a bit. Okay, so let me undo that. So if I keep it within the boundary, it should, yeah, that gives me a little better control. And then if you want to go in and try to fine tune it, of course, you can. And here, I would say slightly less, but same idea. Okay, cool. Nobody's in the chat, so it looks like we're on my own for the moment. Quite alright, friends. I didn't really announce the live stream. I just kinda went on without any warning. So, let's see. Let's go back to the B key. And we do not want our eraser. And I do think I'd like to be... One thing I would like to have in, it's a bit of a throwback to the old plastic animation paper program, but I would like a quick and dirty hotkey that instantly switches to a specific zoom level, which for me would probably be X2 or possibly in some cases X4. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and leave the skins on for the moment just because I've got this part that's been erased. And I want to make sure I can see what I'm doing. Well, and just for the record, this is really does make the case for why doing your ink in a separate layer is quite useful, because then you could have your onion skins on the ink but not the pencil test, and so it would be a little less confusing. Let's go ahead and do that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to call this pencil test. Let's just not be stupid. So I'm going to put this as ink, and we'll package it into a group called Golic soon enough, but for now let's just do this. We'll put a keyframe here, 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 and here, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the stuff that I've already inked, put it into the other layer, and then we'll do a quick cleanup and then be on our merry way. So control, I guess we do control C, control shift V. So let's go back here. Pretty much looks like the same selection, so. Well, selection here is going to be a little bit off, so we'll just add to it like that. Control C, go into the ink layer, control shift V, and finally, you guys will see here in half a second why I'm doing this. Control C, and then here we're pasting into the active layer. Okay, so now let's turn the pencil test off and just get this simple start inked. And I believe if I hit Control F, that's going to run color to alpha and get rid of the red. So here I can do it again. Here I don't want to do it yet. So what I want to do here is turn on my onion skin so I can see what the previous frame was in terms of shape. I can see, and it's pretty easy to follow this pretty close. We actually want it to vary a little bit, obviously. So, who's watching? Who's out there watching today? Who's watching the Animation Truman Show? The absolute best hour of television on YouTube. course, it's not an hour and it's not television. So there are those items to consider. Okay, now let's add some wrinkles, just because we love wrinkles, don't we? Animators love wrinkles. Wrinkles are fun. Wrinkles give your work a sense of life, an organic feeling. Okay, so now what we can do is just take the pencil test and turn it down like a lot. Okay, so with that in mind, we do want to be vigilant here today for areas where it'd probably be good to go through and spec out the whole shot, truthfully. But the idea being that there's going to be certain places, like right here, this is a hold for Golek. And anyway, you're looking for areas where you may want to cut the character into pieces. Truth of the matter is, in this case, his body really doesn't change position over those 4 frames. So that's actually an example of what I'm talking about. But are we going to put it on a separate layer? So the trade-off is, do we clutter up our workspace with more layers, or do we have to fill in the color 4 times? You know, probably a good example where a little bit of both is not the worst idea in the world. What do I mean by that? Well, I'll just add another layer, and I'm going to put it below the ink layer. Now watch this, friends. Watch this. I'm going to go ahead and insert a keyframe, and then let's just go ahead and ink. And by the way, I'm sorry, there is... Oh, I don't want to hit GE. I want to hit the slash key. I got to get that. I got to start to habitualize that. Okay, there's an error in the pencil test. Okay, and the error is that Golek actually has these cuffs. So that needs to be fixed. So nobody's identifying themselves. You evil twins, how could you? Okay, so we'll just kind of go like that. And over here, we have a similar situation, so I'm going to rotate the canvas just to make it easier since I'm a righty. I actually did an experiment yesterday with my Deco tablet, which is like a, I mean, you can get a Deco for, golly, I don't know how much they are. They're probably like 30 bucks. I mean, it's a cheap tablet, but it's not a screen, right? But I plugged it into this machine to say, okay, well, what if I was working on this machine and didn't have a screen, if I was just using a regular tablet? And you know, basically, it's pretty good. I really like the Deco. Big reason is it's got about a 10-inch surface, so you really, at normal size on your art, the distance you move on the tablet is pretty close to the distance you move on the picture. Whereas on a smaller tablet, you move an inch and it goes halfway across the screen, right? But no, the XP Pen Deco is, if somebody needs a cheap solution, there's an argument to be made that a standard tablet is actually better than a screen, because you never have the problem I have right now where my hand is on the screen and I'm covering up part of the art, you know? So anybody who's out there thinking it's absolutely essential that you have a tablet screen, and you know you can't compete if you don't have a screen, but yet you can't afford it, don't believe it. That's crazy stuff. Just a standard tablet, and again, I do recommend the XP Pen Deco. It's pretty good. You know, you get used to it really quick, and it's pretty much just as good, in my opinion, as a tablet screen. Tablet screen's a little better. I should probably upgrade. I mean, I'm using the 15.1 inch, and oh, here comes Valerie. Morning, baby. So I don't think I'm gonna, I guess I'll just delineate a little bit here on his hand, but that's probably not the best delineation job I've ever done. everybody struggles with hands. I saw somebody, I don't know if it was on Darren T's live stream a couple days ago, people talking about the difficulty of hands. If you're gonna do hands, I'm gonna say think about the underlying structure. So that's why I'm going back to the red pencil here. And by the way, everything I started to do with the ink on the body is totally fouled up because I inadvertently. All right, never mind. I was going to say I inadvertently jumped into the wrong layer, but that's not true. I forgot that the layer I'm working on is underneath, not on top. So anyway, but you know, with a hand, you've got this sort of box, right? And you know, the best advice is just look at a hand. You know, look at whenever I just go like this and look at my hand when I'm not sure. Sometimes I don't care. You know, it's cartoon, right? But definitely on a trickier hand pose, I just look at the darn thing. You know, it's not that hard. Okay, I'm gonna roll the animation here. I'm gonna let it loop and be back in about probably 5 minutes. It'll probably be less than 5 minutes, but give me a few minutes here, and I'm going to turn that up so you can see it, but this is not going to be that wonderful to look at, but it'll be something while I take a break. So you guys go to the bathroom or do whatever you're going to do, and I'll see you back here in a couple minutes. All right, thank you, friends who have stuck around, which it looks like there might be one. Okay, it sounds like I have been granted a reprieve today because I thought I was going to be spending. So not only am I going to save a bunch of time with this new hotkey that Darren pointed out to me, but in addition to that, I figured I was going to be spending an hour or two today with the tiller, my new tiller, tilling the garden. And according to the gardening expert, Valerie, we might as well wait until things dry out a little bit more because it rained quite a bit last day or two, and we've got plenty of time before we plant the garden, so basically no hurry. All right, let's zoom in, and actually I will say, let me say that if I do a selection and hit M, let's see what happens. Yeah, it still flips the whole canvas, which is probably good, but I don't know if Krita used to be a little smarter about the flipping the canvas, where it flipped it, like, preferably when you flip the canvas, it would flip around whatever you're looking at, because now I have to go like this to, you know. It seems like Krita used to work that way, but I don't know. I don't know. So that looks totally stupid, so I'll hit my slash key. That gives me a little practice with my slash key. These hands are going to be pretty tiny on the screen, so we don't have to necessarily belabor it. But, okay, so now what I'm going to do is actually go to this frame here and hit insert to delete all that, and then actually hit Control E and bake the ink layer. Okay, that's surprising. I thought it was going to change the name from the layer on top, but it actually changed it to the layer on the bottom. Okay, so what that did was it basically took that ink and made it so it prevails over this entire section. Which is kind of wrong, actually. Let me hit undo. I gotta think about this a little bit more. Okay, so actually what happens is you got Vespigi behind him, and then here, why am I not seeing in my pencil test the keyframes where Vespigi walked up to him? Did I put that in a different layer? I think I might have. Let me turn all the selection masks seem to be piling up. So, okay, that's weird. Not sure what I did there or when I did it, but it looks like that's a little disappointing. The keyframes of Vespigi walking up to him seem to have disappeared. So, do we panic? I think not. I think not. The pencil test. So actually, let's take this. That's just a little guide layer. Let's get rid of that. I am going to save this as .48 temp, and then I want to pull this up and check. Huh. Okay. Never mind. I guess we'll just go back to what we had. I got a couple things I'm going to have to redraw. Okay, so anyway, the point is that the ink on Golic here needs to prevail until this frame here. Okay. Bake that down. And basically, this is one of those heavy dyslexia moments where I'm having a hard time thinking about the timing sort of in reverse. Like, and actually that's weird. When I, oh, don't do that to me, Krita. Seriously, dude. I have to switch back to my default animation layout because Krita is losing track of stuff. So you see what's happening there is that the buffers, I first noticed this maybe yesterday here in Krita 5, that the buffers don't seem to remember when you've turned the opacity down on a layer until you let up your stylus. And then it goes to the opacity level it's supposed to be at. And by the way, it does seem to keep switching back. So that's weird. Yeah, that's just weird. I don't know what to think about that. I don't know what to think about that. Anyway, long story short is that, as you guys can clearly see, it turns out just re-inking and cutting and pasting in many, many cases is probably faster and less error prone than simply or I should say less error prone than putting stuff on another layer and then baking it down, if you're talking about dealing with animation frames and something that prevails over a number of frames. Okay, so if that doesn't make any sense, the bottom line is that for me, just because of the problem of having to sort of think in reverse about what I'm doing, I seem to make more mistakes trying to use multiple layers, and essentially trying to save time winds up taking 10 times longer. That's the sum-uppance of it. And you guys just saw it happen here over the last 10-15 minutes. I'm like sitting here dinking around trying to save, spending 10 minutes trying to save, 30 seconds of cutting and pasting. So whatever. Okay, so now over here I will just go ahead and in the ink layer just run the filter to go color to alpha and just get rid of the red. So now we really don't need the onion skins anymore, and let's just turn on the pencil test and see what we have. Okay, so we know that here we need to insert a keyframe because this switches to a close-up of Vespigi. Now, I think what I'm going to do, actually, I'm feeling frisky. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and ink Vespigi as opposed to cutting and pasting him from that other shot. Just because, it's good practice. So, that's that. I did not mean to make a selection. I meant to have the brush. There's the little pointy thing, and of course that's not even close to symmetrical, so now I'm using the slash key. Again, all the credit goes to Darren. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to put a guide in here with the red pencil. I could put it on the pencil test layer, but it doesn't matter. I mean, as long as it's just a little temporary guide. Okay, so temporary guide. And I'll just switch back to black so that I can do this accurately-ish. Zuko's over there going, "Oh dear." I don't know why he's saying "oh dear," but He is. All right, I just turned the smoothing on for half a second. You know, it's almost better to, the stuff that has to be like rigid like this, straightish lines. Obviously this isn't perfect, but it's probably fine for what we're doing here. To a degree, it's almost more sensible to have just ink the rigid stuff separately and maybe use the Bezier path tool. It just will make everything quicker. So turning the smoothing back off, and now let's just get to work. All right. Now I'm starting to have fun again. Can just get back to good old drawing. Drawing, friends. All right, so I'm going to rotate the canvas a little bit. Vespucci's got a little bit of... See, this is where that eraser thing is really useful, because I can sort of sketch it in, and then if it's a little messy, once I have it dialed in, I can just tighten it up a bit. And this being more or less anime, I really should have the eyebrow on top. It's kind of an anime convention, isn't it? Okay, and my other... Hey, Darren, it was me that was talking about struggling with hands. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, at the risk of sounding like I've got a really serious ego problem, I will say that I'm really better at drawing hands than I often draw them here, because I just, you know, as I said, with a cartoon, I just tend to not worry too much about making them anatomically awesome. But sometimes I do. So I draw hands not to my level of capability here, kind of a lot of the time, if the truth be known. But, you know, whatever. Always this calculus of whether something's important enough to try to make it perfect or awesome or whatever. Okay, Vespucci. A little bit of wrinklage. He's not exactly an old man, but he's not a young man either. I'm going to say Vespucci's probably in his late 50s, early 60s maybe. And did people age a little more back then? I would say maybe. Unless you go way, way back, in which theoretically those that believe the story, you know, people lived actually a lot longer in the ancient world. But we don't really know for sure. I don't know about that. There may be evidence of it, actually. Longer lifespans. I mean, most ancient cultures do seem to have a legend of a flood, so the flood seems to be a thing. And some people postulate that there was more of a positive greenhouse effect on the Earth in you know, let's say 10,000 years ago or something, prior to the flood, where you had almost this canopy effect in the Earth that kept out some of the UV rays. And who knows? The truth is, we just don't actually know. Okay, what do we have here? Ah, that's right. I said I was going to liquefy this. So, let's go back to this, and unfortunately, oh, I see what I did. Okay, I am an idiot. Got it. Got it, friends. So this is another one. I thought I got rid of the... I guess I did it on this frame and not the others. Okay, so Well, again, like I said, dyslexia moment, Control F. Okay. Increasingly, I'm seeing generally, I'm better off to just keep everything in separate layers. And by the way, this sucks. So I am going to just do the old mirror thing here. And before I do, I'm going to fix this finger because it looks completely stupid. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is grab this and just assume... Oh, actually, there's one more thing I want to change here on the hand. This finger's too long, so let's just go like this, select it, hit the A key, let's go liquefy, and just punch that down a little bit. There we go. One thing, by the way, this is kind of an important thing to note, I noticed with liquefy, is generally speaking, you know, you get this fuzzing out and degradation that happens in your lines when you use liquefy. But you know what? It basically, unless you take a vertical line and do it repeatedly, and even then, it's actually not the case. So this is an interesting thing to note. If you clamp your alpha, okay, which I often do, let me reset that. Okay, come on, really? I guess I'll use my mouse just to not be fighting with the machine. Okay, so you can see when I clamp the alpha, you've really cleaned up your art, but at the same time you've introduced aliasing, right? And of course you can apply a quick and dirty blur to that, but so let's just look at what that means. First of all, at actual size, does the aliasing matter? Most of the time I would say no. Especially if, like me, your final show actually has a tiny blur on the whole timeline. A tiny blur. Just to, and that's a 1 pixel blur. So if we add a 1 pixel blur, look what we have. Now this is the part that I find interesting. If we go and liquefy this, you see it fuzzed out a little bit, but now I'm using liquefy over and over and over again. This is really an important thing to note about liquefy. It doesn't actually get worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. I would say that's less the case, and we could be wrong. Let me try it. I think it's less the case here in Tahoma. Let me see. Let me draw a line. Okay, and now what I'm going to do, as you guys can see, that's actual size. The lines are not too badly aliased, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the S key and really grab this very specifically. Now, when I hit the control key and start mushing things around, which is as close as you can get to liquefy in Tahoma, you can see that the lines do, yeah, especially if you go in this direction. That's probably going to be true with liquefy as well, though. They get wider, right? You see that? So then when you look at that rendered, it's fairly distorted. Probably the useful takeaway is, if you're working with something that's animated, don't worry about it. I mean, think about it. With a camera, if you were shooting something with a camera, everything's motion blurred anyway, right? The whole idea is for it to look blurred, makes it look more realistic, so it's not a problem. And then on that occasion when it's really important, you know, you're on a landing frame, where you're going to have that line on the screen for a while, well then either do alpha clamping like I did before, which is going to punch up the edges. So you can do that as a cleanup step, and you have tons of control over it, or just enhance it. Now, I tend to favor a very, very weak, unsharp mask to a standard sharpen. So you can see that's basically fine. Undo that. Let's look at what the sharpen tool does. Sharpen tool is a little aggressive, and frankly, it's kind of surprising, but in Krita, the sharpen tool really doesn't have any parameters that you can tweak. You can't adjust the strength of it or anything. It just is what it is. So for me, I tend to use an unsharp mask at a very light setting. And so anyway, back to work. What I was going to do over here is, and by the way, look at this. Okay, so what I'm going to have to do here is I'm going to have to grab his arm, Control C, and now I'm actually going to do the same thing over here. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, and then I'm going to go Control Shift V. So what I'm doing is, wait a minute. Okay, am I remembering wrong? It looks like I did fix the pointy finger, but obviously it would make a little more sense for the ring finger to be slightly longer. Right? Right, friends? And you see what sharpening just did right there. It's a little aggressive in my opinion. So, all right, so now what I'm going to do is grab, well, I need to make sure I grab a little bit more than I did before. Otherwise, I'm going to wind up having gaps. So Control C, let's go back here, and Control Shift V. Sorry. Okay, and now I'm going to come back here and I'm going to do it again, Control Shift V, but this time I'm going to hit the A key and flip it. I'm going to go ahead and put this arm over here. Okay. Basically, that's pretty good. Now let's clean it up. Just clean that up and clean that up. Thank you again, Darren, for the hotkey suggestion, because it's sure making the cleanup process easier and faster. Okay. And now I'll just select all of this like so. Control C and paste it back in. Strike that. Undo. Okay. Just a necessary intermediate step is to go ahead and delete what's already there, because otherwise you're just going to okay, what did I just do? I'm having a more difficult time today than I should be. Seem to be fixing things and then going back and looking at them and going, wait, I thought I just fixed that. Okay, Control C, Control V, Control V, Control Shift V, I should say. Paste into the active layer. Okay, finally got Golok in shape. Finally got Golok dialed in. Okay, so now the question is, are we going to liquefy here or not? Well, let's find out. A key. When I did the pencil test, essentially I just said let's anchor on the bridge of his nose. And yes, so that works fine. And now we have to change the characterization just a bit. So I'm going to do that with just use the old eraser. And so we're just wanting to furrow the brow a little bit, right? And frankly, a slight squintiness on the bottom as well. So we'll get the squint first. And then we'll get the, okay, this is where having the skins on might be useful, and we'll turn the pencil test off. So we go to here, and now this is definitely helpful. I can see if the eyebrow position didn't change at all, it would move about this far, so we want to move it a little further than that. Okay, and I'm just going to get the lower contour of it for now, just to get my positioning squared away. Okay, and then now I'm going to go in and establish the thickness of it and the key spots where I'm going to have to connect the dots accurately. As you can see, that looks good. I need to rotate the canvas though. Okay, N key, 5 key, turn off the skins and see what we got. I like it, kind of a lot. Okay, and then on this frame, let's just go ahead and do color to alpha again, just to get rid of the red. Guidelines, and then I can just now go Control F to repeat the last filter. Good, looks good. Then in the pencil test, I believe what happens is Vespigi starts moving. So the thing that I thought I had erased or something went wrong and was missing, I just forgot how this went. What happens is Golik's scanning the crowd and Vespigi's just standing there, right? So I'm going to steal this drawing here and shrink it down to plug it into this little section here. Things do become a lot more complicated when you're packing multiple shots into a single sequence, that's for sure. But anyway, you can see what happens is there's just there's basically 2 frames of expansion here. So let's go A key. So I'm basically gonna save some time on my inking, but not my paint. On my paint, I'm gonna have to go through and color every frame again. And I don't care, that's fine. Okay, so now we've got Vespigi where he needs to be, and now when we go here, this is where, now what we need to do, this is kind of interesting, is Golik, let's turn the pencil test back up. It's really, you know, the discipline here for me is I have to make myself really slow down, because if I just think for a second about what I'm doing, I wind up saving actually a lot of time and mistakes. Here what we have is Golik looking to the left, and then Vespigi puts his hand on his shoulder, and then Golik looks back to the right. You know, he notices the touch. Okay, so that's fine. So we're going to have to add Vespigi to this sequence, but I mean, look what we have here. This is essentially just this shot, isn't it? Right? So in the ink, this is what should be here. Then we'll be adding Vespigi. He does his thing, and then here we've got this change with Golik. So this is going to be this, and so when I say I want to, you know, take half a second and think, what I'm saying is cutting and pasting all this stuff in and put Vespigi in later lets me reuse as much as possible. Okay, so now we do have this thing that I said a moment ago, which is if we take this, all right, and let's just take this, Control C, and now let's go back here. I'm going to go Control Shift V. Oh, come on, I was on the wrong layer. Dave, you silly goose. Okay, Control C. Now here, I'm going Control Shift V, but I'm going to shrink this way down and move it back here out of the way. And Am I in solo mode here? Why do I not see? Okay, I'm just gonna go ahead and hit no selection because it doesn't matter. I am confused at the moment. I'm gonna turn the ink off, and what I'm asking myself is, when did I don't remember completely deleting everything in this frame. It doesn't matter really, but okay. So I guess this is, yeah. So what we're gonna do, let's turn this back on and go here. What we need to do is densify this somehow. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna actually add a second layer above and Control C and then go up here, insert a keyframe just to be safe, and then Control Shift V, and we can see it's getting darker. And now what I'm going to do is duplicate this layer like 3 times. Okay, so now I'm going to go Control E, Control E, Control E. Okay, so now you can see Vespucci's way denser than he was. There's other ways to do this. You could do it with blurs and curves and things, but basically that gets us in. Okay, stop. What I want to do here is actually put another keyframe in so that when I bake this down, it doesn't have this ghost of Vespucci over the other shots. Okay, so now what I'm wondering is, let's turn this off, and again, I am confused. Okay, so we still have Vespucci in the ink here. Okay, so this should work. Control E, with the caveat that that keyframe needs to be deleted. Okay, so now what we can do, I'm going to actually go to this frame and look at, in my pencil test, this is what I'm looking for. Okay, I had deleted it out of the first frame, and I'm giving myself an inordinate amount of difficulty just because that stupid circle isn't there. Seriously, it's that ridiculous. Okay, so now all I'm trying to do is just figure out where the heck Vespucci is supposed to be in the first part of this whole sequence. And so now that we fixed his ink, we can put this here. And now we basically have a choice. Are we going to have separate ink or not? Truthfully, golly, it's such a trade-off. I'm going to go Control C, and what I'm going to do is grab my brush and just erase this little flaw here. I'm going to leave these guys baked into the same layer. I just am. So that means I've got 1, 2, 3. And you know something, this is an important thing to remember too. I talked about how if you have a bunch of duplicate frames where it's the same ink over and over, because over here in the corner of the frame there's one thing that's being animated, so you've got all this repeat. Well, remember, when you do the color, you can do a keyframe and just let it prevail underneath multiple frames of ink. So your policy would be, in this case for example, would be, when I do the color, what I need to do is create a keyframe on 0 and color everything except what moves, right? And then that will carry on under the whole sequence, and then come back and just catch the stuff that's on top that's moving. That would be the relatively smart-ish way to do it. Okay, so now what we need to do is go back into the pencil test and get Vespucci finished, because obviously he is not looking quite right. We need to get his anatomy happening, and he's basically standing there in a somewhat distinguished manner. And now one question that does come to mind is, what about Carliana? Is she in this shot? Frankly, she should be. She really should be. So I'm going to go ahead and put her back here so that when we cut to the close-ups of Vespigi, we're not going to have the confusion of should she be visible in the frame. I don't want her in those frames. So let's just block her in. Right? And then she's kind of looking up. She's kind of got a squared off chin a little bit. Actually, I don't like that. She definitely is in a bad mood because this business of her daughter being kidnapped doesn't make her particularly happy. So she has a little bit of the same visual characteristics as Golik, with the bags around her eyes. It's just a little less extreme in her case. And then, of course, we want to see her hair, because that's the way we've been drawing her. So we'll get her blocked in. Okay, looks good. Yes, and now we'll go jump to the ink layer, and again, this is going to be appearing in the entire sequence. She's not going to be doing anything. She's just going to kind of be there. So let's do the sort of Alex Toth bold lines, but sort of minimalist kind of thing. I love that look. I do. Zuko, what are you talking about over there? He's saying, okay. Okay, what, buddy? You talking to me? Are you talking to me? Are you talking to me? Because, you know, if you're talking to me, you better talk polite. That's what you better do. You better talk polite. You don't talk polite to me, you're going to be, well, you can be sorry about that. That's what you're going to be. Talking to me. Parrot. Okay. That was fun. Wasn't that fun? It's fun to do a little acting now and then. Acting is an amazing thing in the sense that it's the quintessential improvisational, of course, assuming, I shouldn't say, improvisational is not the right word. You have to completely let go to act well. You know, I actually, a moment ago when I was doing that, I actually did it. I sort of turned off my awareness of you guys and fully allowed myself to sort of become that sort of, I guess it was sort of a combination of the name escaping me, who did the "Are you talking to me" lines in the movie, which its name escapes me as well. But it was basically a combination of that and Joe Pesci a little bit, kind of thing. Well, that's why when people rant about, for example, Heath Ledger's performance as the Joker in the second Batman movie, I thought he did an amazing job, but it wasn't that great. I mean, it's like any number of people could have done just as well. That's my opinion. A lot of people are going to disagree with me on that one, but I would stand by that opinion. It's just not that hard to get so into the zone that you really become the character, you know, the kind of the method sort of thing. I'm not a big proponent of the method in the sense that I think I said this yesterday, is the final surface result is what most people are responding to. You know, the depths of what got you there in terms of a performance, you know, they're most people aren't really tuned into that. Now other actors would be. It's just like this channel, you know. What I'm doing is of interest to animators, but the actual ultimate audience for this show couldn't possibly care less about what I'm doing here. They don't care how the show was made. They just either engage with the characters and the plot, or they don't. You know. Amar's here. Hey, David. Hola to everyone. Bird's talking about something. Yous knows no one knows what you're talking about.
Method acting is after you memorize the line, you become that character in its totality. It's totality. That's what you do. You become that character, and it's complete totality. You just, you know, you freaking flip a switch. Is what I'm talking about. You flip a switch, and when you turn that switch on, man, there's no going back. There ain't no going back. None. None. Do you understand what I'm saying?
You know, you just turn it on. You just flip the switch. And frankly, I want to do that more and better on the soundtrack of Salt and Light, because the more I've done that, where I just turn on the microphone, and when I'm Vespigi,
You know, I instantly take on his body language and actually become Vespigi.
you know, you just get a better performance, and you can literally blitz through it in one take, and you go back and listen, and you go, oh my gosh, you know, it's just way better than, it's the same thing I've described to you guys about looping on movies. You don't want to really take the time to think. Seriously. You just want to allow yourself to get lost in the moment and then just let it come out. Just puke it out. You will tend to get the best results. Again, that's my opinion. Other people may disagree. But there it is, friends. There it is. In a world where we become other characters. It's a beautiful thing. I really, that's my goal. That's my goal. Is I want to get there as an animator, and when I say as an animator, I mean as an actor using animation as my tool. You know, and as a writer, and as a voice actor, and as a composer. That's what I want. I want to achieve that level of not just craft, because I pretty much have the craft. The problem is the discipline part of it, of doing what you know. Because if you think about it, a lot of times doing what you know to get the best performance means not overthinking it and over-preparing and being super meticulous. It's actually more about courage. It's about just doing what you're capable of. You know, you think about right now, today, you could take a snapshot of me and you'd say, this is who you are and this is what you're capable of today. Now, your job is to have the courage to provide the world with the most authentic representation of that capability. So if there's any fear, if there's any accommodation of you know, if you think, you know, if you're a people pleaser and you sort of are always thinking in terms of what you are doing, this calculus of what other people expect, it's what young people doing their first job interviews always do. You know, they're always trying to give the answers they think the person wants to hear, right? When you do that, you can be competent, you can get the job, you know, you can do okay, but you'll never be as happy. You'll never be as happy as you would be if you were authentic. And number two, you won't be as good. You just won't. What the world needs is people who have the courage to accept the fact that, look, I have limitations. I just am what I am today. But, you know, I have a pretty sound ethical moral compass, if you will. And so I'm a decent person that's trying my best. And now I'm going to do that. I'm going to just do my best. And allow myself to think outside the box and try to contribute in a way that, you know, I'm uniquely able to. I think that's a cool thing. I think that's a very cool thing. Okay, so here we do have a little bit of a problem, don't we? Because now what we need to do, if we really want to work this, let's see here. We've got Golik switching back. And then it does come back to here. So what this means is, I'm going to leave it at this for now. This is where I just need to not be stupid. Okay, so the solution here actually is, let's look at this. Okay. First of all, the entire composition is a little bit pushed to the right anyway. So ultimately, it wouldn't be a horrible thing to take the whole thing and move it slightly to the left. But why not let's make our life slightly easier by just saying, look, do we really need Carliana to be like literally behind? Or could she be, could we just put her a little further in the distance like that? Can we do that? Well, if we do that, we've just solved an enormous amount of problems, because the overlapping means we need to put the ink and color probably in separate layers, because, I mean, you know, Vespigi might be moving, you know, in front of her. So now the calculus here is this so overwhelmingly better, storytelling-wise, than this, that it's important that we not make this change? And I would say no, it's no. The point is you see her in the background, right? So why not do what's easy, or, you know, going to create less problems downstream, rather than doing what's hard, you know, just because we can. So here, I'm just going to have this sort of vague representation of her in the background. And here, I'm just going to make this selection and take this out. And I'm not even going to bother to put her in those other frames. In other words, ultimately, I'm going to wind up drawing Carliana one time and probably ink and paint her into the same layer, just because she's a background character. And then we'll just put her in a separate layer. And then if I want to, then I could maybe scale her up a little bit and move her back behind Vespigi, you know, if I want to. So there it is. So in a sense, what we're kind of doing here is we're building out the assets, keeping in mind that we may be, you know, sort of changing them downstream here a little bit. By the way, she really does have a bosom, so I need to get a little indication of that in there. I think I'll do it kind of like that, and this, it looks too baggy. But yeah, that'll work. Okay, cool. All right, so let's just keep zipping forward here. Okay, so we've got Golek as a static image as Vespigi moves. So let's grab this. Just like from the shoulders up. Let's do that. 1, 2, 3. Okay. So here we're going to go Control Shift V. And following the pencil test. And then I'm going to hit Control C again. Well, I don't even need to hit Control C. I can just move him into position. Okay, and then the thing that changes is the addition of his hand. There's a slight change here. Okay, Control C, and then here, Shift Control V, Shift Control V. Okay, yes. Right there. So we're letting Golek take the stage there, and then boom. Okay, so this is going to be and then it cuts to a close-up. And of course, as you can see, everything scrubs back and forth in real time really nicely, except the one thing we need to see. Yeah, typical Credo. So here, we need to actually just go boop and get rid of everything. Okay, so, wow, Amar, you got like a lot of chat going on here, buddy. So let me take a look at, once you understand how to really see it and become that character, everything else can believe. Sell, right. So animators and voice actors, they become the character when it's done right. I agree. I'm just going to add more character to my animation when you know I'm officially an animator. So you can't sell the performance, you're just making moving images. Well, I mean, that's an easy thing to say, but you know, it's more than the movement of the character. It's the total amalgamation of the movement of the character, plus the way the character is drawn, plus the acting, plus the voice, plus the music, plus the script, right? The danger here is to put too much weight on, you know, your assessment of what it means to have successfully and authentically recreated whatever that character is supposed to do. My point about Carliana here is that usually things like that are like in isolation, it turns out really don't matter that much. They matter a little, right? They matter, but they're not that big of a deal. And we definitely, especially as animators, because we're working in the microscopic and we never get to see what our work looks like until we play it back, right? So there's always the danger of becoming myopic with animation, where I'm like, oh my God, I gotta make this eye so perfect. Oh, I'm so worried about just getting, and I get that eye perfect, and then I look at it at actual size, and all the work was a total waste of time because it turns out you can't actually, you know, see it. We want to be very careful about being myopic, friends. Okay, so now are we going to reuse this? Well, it seems to me the question would be, why the heck wouldn't we? So, S key, Control C, let's go back here, Control Shift V, and I'm going to make a little change. We'll clean this up downstream. And I do believe we're going to be having some liquefy going on as well. So I'm going to go back 3 frames here. And let's just see what we have. I'm going to actually go down, then up a bit, and then he's really raising himself up here to cheer Golikan. And that worked out nicely. That looks good. Okay, and then here we will just insert another keyframe so that we can move forward in peace, joy, and harmony. Well, you know, let's remember, according to my production goal, if this entire shot is completed today, then I've hit my goal, because this is a 20-second long shot. You know, 20 seconds in 6 hours is the goal. And yesterday I did over a minute in 3 hours. So sometimes you hit it, sometimes you get lucky, sometimes it goes down the puker. You know, it just depends.
It's 100% about making a connection with the characters using animation to tell the story.
I know I can do moving images and write a story, but can one connect to the characters that I create? For that animation, I know I'm not there yet. I am not there yet. I'm not there yet.
But most get caught up in making cool moving images and calling themselves animators.
I don't actually believe that's true. A great storyteller can animate 2 rocks and sell that animation enough to get one emotionally involved in the story. And I think that's an exaggeration. I don't think that's true. I think most people... what you're saying, if we go up three comments from the word involved, so involved -2, but most get caught up into making cool moving images and calling themselves animators. I don't know who those people are that you're talking about. I think that people, looking at myself and looking at the kind of people who come here, I think that what you actually seem to be saying with that comment is that the what goes haywire has to do with arrogance and being premature to declare yourself to be this or that or the other. I don't think for most of us in this space, I don't think arrogance is the problem. I actually think fear and insecurity is way more of a problem. So now people might do outwardly what you're talking about, but you see, most people, the truth of the matter is most people are not that arrogant. Most people don't have the confidence to be arrogant, is the truth of the matter. Okay, now you as a guy who, let's just say on a scale of 1 to 10, let's say if you're operating in a space on Discord or whatever, that where most of the people there are operating at a 1 to a 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay, but you're at a 4 or a 5, let's say, in certain areas of what you do. If you go into that space, and I mean, and I'm certainly guilty of this as well, but you go in this space and now you begin to talk like you know what you're talking about. Okay? Some people would look at that and call that arrogant. You know, they're going to say, well, okay, you know, let's see your amazing work if you really know everything you're talking about. And I'm very cognizant of that because I don't want to be that guy. Now that looks pretty good, guys. That looks pretty good. I like the way that's going. I think that you can really it's all theory. At the end of the day, in the long run, when people look back, it's going to turn out the only thing that mattered was the work. The only thing that ever mattered was the work. And I think it's really important for us at all levels of skill or accomplishment to remember that. No one's going to remember our stupid opinions. No one's going to remember our presence on Discord. If we die suddenly, you have a massive heart attack, then everybody's going to go, wow, that's really awful. And that's going to last about 3 days. And then everybody gets on with their own life. Nobody cares. You know, either the work is lasting or it's not. And frankly, you know, most of it's not. Until a person really, really strongly and powerfully resolves to, like I've done here, you know, making this show, I'm just absolutely resolved. I'm going to freaking do this. And at the end of the day, nothing about me is ever going to matter at all. It's not going to matter a whit. All that matters is the show. That's all people are going to care about. If it entertains them, great. If it doesn't, in some spaces, somebody might say, well, that was a laudable effort, you know, let's say. And it is. Even if you fail. You know, I tell you, you know what would be one of the coolest things? I don't know if you've seen this, but, Amar, if you look on my YouTube channel, have you seen the Cannel playlist? Have you seen the Cannel playlist? Let me know in the chat if you have seen my Stephen J. Cannell playlist. Because if you haven't, I want you to watch. Okay, let me look and make sure it is a public. I'm pretty sure it's a public playlist. But if you go on my YouTube channel and then go to well, I think it's you go to more and you just go down and you're looking for a playlist called Cannel. Okay, so here's the playlist. Okay, you watch this, dude. You watch this. I love this man. I absolutely admire the hell out of this guy because not because of his work or his accomplishments, but because of his attitude. This is a guy who kept his attitude and his moral compass right where it needed to be most of his career, and he is just an amazing guy. So if you can, I will post this link right now in the Discord to the playlist because I don't think I can do it on the so general. I'll put it under the useful edu videos. Yeah, Cannel. I actually rewatched this yesterday. Whenever I want to get myself on track, I go back and I look at Cannell. I just love that guy. I wish to hell he was still alive because I would love to just reach out to him and say, dude, you have been a great inspiration to me. Not because of the shows you created, because a lot of his shows were pretty cheeseball, believe me, but because of the way he ran his life. I mean that very seriously. I am a massive fan of Stephen J. Cannell. Check it out. Watch a lot of motivational stuff on YouTube. Well, in the Cannell thing, the first 6 or 8 videos are from the Archive of American Television. So it's a really good interview and it really covers everything. Then the other videos in the playlist, a lot of it becomes redundant because, you know, when he was doing interviews, obviously he did tend to repeat himself to a degree. But if you watch, you know, while you're doing your animation work or whatever, just watch the Archive of American Television playlist. you'll say that if all producers, creators approached their work and their life the way Cannell did, they'd be way more successful. Because he wasn't successful because he was amazingly talented. In fact, I've watched movies and I've watched acting that he's done in other people's movies and things like that. Everything about Cannell, truthfully, was pretty mediocre. You know, now in its time, he hit a few home runs. The Rockford Files was a home run. The A-Team was a home run, even though it was largely denigrated even when it was on. When it was the number one show, people laughed at how stupid it was and accused Cannell of like selling out, you know, just for money or something, which is ridiculous because, I mean, to have conceived and created that show, it was like a complete, in Cannell's own words, it was a total recipe for failure. I mean, it was the dumbest idea in the world, but it's like, okay, I mean, it seems like it'll be fun, so let's just give it a try kind of thing, you know? It's crazy. Crazy stuff. Okay, I'm going to keep rocking here. And now we get to here, and we're really making a duplicate of this, where we're going to be cutting and pasting and like moving his fist around and stuff. So I guess I do need to draw one rendition of the fist. So the first thing I'm going to do is actually go to the, I'm going to go to the pencil test layer. And let's get the hand, you know, speaking of hands, let's get the hand in here well. Okay, so finger, 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 finger. Okay, thumb up here on top. We'll kind of do this sort of Jack Kirby style, I guess, if you want to think of it that way. All right. So a little bit blocky. Okay, we got these wrinkles. Here's the meat of his palm, right? And then these fingers do kind of curl around like that. So again, it's a little cartoony. That's kind of the idea, but not too bad. Let's hit the N key, and as you can see, well, talk about being myopic. There you go, perfect example. I zoom in and I wind up drawing it way, way, way too big. That's hilarious. But it's easy to do too. So, okay, so Amar says, you don't have to be the greatest, you just have to be the great. I don't believe that. You don't have to be great. You can actually be very subpar. You can be 20, 30%. And if you're a decent person with a good work ethic, you're still going to be very successful. You can be actually, in fact, look at how many people are successful who are basically assholes. You know. You don't have to be great. Need to finish Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Think and Grow Rich. Don't bother with Think and Grow Rich. If you look into Napoleon Hill, the guy was a complete shyster. The guy was actually a complete scammer. Don't bother with Think and Grow Rich. If you're going to go down that road, look at Brian Tracy's stuff, really. I mean, Brian Tracy encapsulates everything that's good in Napoleon Hill, and without all the... I mean, if you believe his story, then it is inspiring, right? But all the stuff about Carnegie, there's no historical evidence that Napoleon Hill ever actually even met Andrew Carnegie. Okay? It's all just a crap story he made up to sell books. So your mileage may vary. You may have a different opinion, but when I did the research on Napoleon Hill, it was not very favorable. He was basically a failed scammer who finally hit the mother lode with Think and Grow Rich. That's basically Napoleon Hill for you. I should actually add a channel to the Discord called Brian Tracy Cliff Notes, because I actually have a whole that I've written out. I actually did Cliff Notes on Brian Tracy's entire program, and it's extremely practical, especially if you're into not just personal performance or whatever, but like sales and stuff like that. It's quite good. I'm a fan of Brian Tracy. You know, and he's pretty much a guy that's I mean, admittedly, maybe he made his fortune in the business of telling people how to make a fortune. There's sort of an incestuous feedback loop to that that's a little suspect. But I mean, isn't it completely what we see all over the place on Facebook these days? Every time I go on Facebook, somebody's got some new idea to either make you a wonderful, successful trader or an instant web developer or whatever. And this, and they're making so much money that they just wanted to help you out. And so now this course that's $2.99 just for a very short time, it's only $7. It's like, really, dude? Okay, I mean, I get it. You're not making any money in the real world, and so you're gonna try to make your money by telling other people how to make money and pretend that you're something you're not. Okay, that's fine. I mean, and you can actually make a lot of money that way. There's, because what you learn is it's not about the uniqueness or even the legitimacy of the idea. It's actually just about marketing and promotion. And being good at marketing promotion is something that I do respect. It takes a lot of effort and risk. It takes courage to, try to sell that scam. It's just not what I want to do. It's just not really who I want to be. So this one's man's opinion. Okay, I'm doing it this way because basically the only thing that changes is his hand, really, for the most part. Everything else is just going to be cut and pasted, and then I just connect the dots on his arm. So why am I going to... So now this is an interesting thing to think about. If you're going to do, I had never thought about it this way before, but if you're going to do ink and paint over top of a pencil test, doesn't it make sense to go through the whole thing and only ink the stuff like Golik's hands right there? Just ink the stuff that's going to move around. Everything else you're going to wind up putting statically underneath it or whatever. So, think about that. Now the problem with this sequence is Golik actually moves around a lot. So his whole body is kind of on the move. So here we could cut and paste for sure from, I think, maybe here. Sort of. Okay, so yeah, I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm just going to grab Golik. I'll worry about Vespigi later, but for now let's grab Golik. And then let's go to here. And he's looking the wrong way. So why don't we do it this way? Let's actually just reverse him. Just to introduce a change. Why not? No harm done. I'm just having fun with my my assets here. So I'm going to go ahead and turn his head up. And then just kind of patch the holes. Control Shift A. But the only useful thing I've said here today is that none of this attitudinal stuff. Like the problem with, I don't listen or read Brian Tracy every day. You know why? Because I've been around that block enough times to realize that you're just spending a lot of time to just sort of pump yourself up and get inspired, and it just doesn't matter. Like at the end of the day, the only thing that's going to matter is, did you go do the work or not? That's all that's going to matter. All the rest is just a freaking stupid mind game we play with ourselves to get inspired, because basically we're afraid. I mean, on various levels in the human experience, we're afraid. And we need to be pumped up, and then we try to get ourselves in a frame of mind to go ahead and go execute. When the truth is, if you cut through all that BS and just only executed, you'd probably accomplish a lot more, you'd fail a lot quicker, and you'd get to your successes a lot quicker as well. That's my opinion. Again, other people may disagree. So here, frankly, I really want to use the heads. Yeah, I do. I want to steal the heads. So I'm going to steal the heads. Control C. And then here, I want to actually erase this. Use my little eraser trick. All that matters is what did you do and the work that comes out of it. That is what will be remembered. And what you'll do is you'll look back on your own experience and you'll say, you know what? Actually, even for me personally, it turns out that's really the only thing that mattered. Did I have a good time sallying forth? So hence that's why we look for inspiration, is because the truth is that in the rigorous business of just doing it, the truth is we're not having a good time. And the reason we're not having a good time isn't because of the work. It's because of ourselves, because we're either scared or lazy or whatever, whatever the reason is. It's what we do, friends. It is what we do. Okay, can we... I guess that looks pretty good. And of course, as I said, you can see what Krita is doing here. It's given us the wonderful ability to scrub, and uncannily, Krita is able to know exactly which frame to not have in the animation cache so that I can see everything except what I want to see, which is that frame right there. Crazy. Isn't that crazy? So I have to actually hit play to just get it to show the one frame. How many times did I scrub that? Like 12 times, and it wouldn't show that frame. I can just see the Krita developers all sort of getting together and go, okay, right, how can we really screw these guys up? What can we do? How do we need to design this algorithm so it's like as frustrating. Let's just really stick it to these animators. It'll be hilarious. I'm kidding. I know they didn't do that. All right, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to grab these 3 keys, and we're going to duplicate them over here, and then we're going to mirror them, okay? So now, the mirror process actually doesn't make sense for... I mean, obviously, this frame right here is redundant to this one. Or, I'm sorry, it's actually going to be this one. So I'm going to hit mirror frame so we can reverse them. Now, this and this are the same. So, therefore, why is this one even required? Well, it's not. Okay, so now what we have here is a definite shift in body weight, and then we're going to have to, oh, yes. We're going to have to start doing a little bit of erasing and stuff. Erasing and stuff. And stuff and that. I used to have a neighbor who'd say that all the time. Every sentence ended with, yeah, he'd say blah, 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 and stuff and that. I just never understood that. It's weird. Nice guy, though. Sweetest guy you'd ever want to meet. Once you do something animation, you love the versatility and quality you get with the brushes and the flexibility of raster. The vector brushes marry perfectly with the raster brushes. The fills and the approach to animation is very similar, requires some organization. Once you spend a week on a small project, I bet you would like it for the layer timeline, especially the clarity of the raster vector brush. I'm seeing it more and more. I use it. The lines alone are the most pleasing for me because I get the lines I draw. Okay, I'm not going to do it today. I got too much crap I'm trying to do with the tools I'm using, but, yeah, it might happen. All right, so I am going to actually take this moment to assume that we want to do a recapitulation of Golek. So I'm going to turn on the skins so that I can actually just go through and let's do one the hard way here, folks. And I'm going to go ahead and use this as a guide like this. Just, I think like that. That's probably, yeah, that'll do the trick. Now, I don't care about CSP today. I mean, it's a neat program, and I want to check it out sometime, and I have checked it out. And as you know, I'm not a fond fan of the interface. But it isn't, it's just not about Krita versus Tahoma. It's either way, you're spending a bunch of hours sitting there with the tool, doing what you do. And as I say, you either wind up producing something or you don't. Darren's one tip today has already saved me 20 minutes. And I just used it right there. So instead of hitting GE to do a lasso fill, at which point I always half the time complain about Krita because it doesn't catch the E key. Instead of even doing that, I'm just hitting the B key. I'm hitting the slash key, which Darren reminded me lets you toggle between the last two brushes. So the last brush is this eraser, and this eraser goes from very small to pretty large so that I can quickly clean things up. That one thing right there, Krita, CSP, you know, you can go down the list. That one tip that Darren gave me today will, no exaggeration, is going to save me hours of time and frustration. Absolutely no question about it. And the solution wasn't to change programs. The solution was just being aware of one stupid hotkey that I had forgotten about, you know? Well, those of us who obviously go on these discussions and are constantly, you know, guys like Goswami, who is literally still today, just did it the other day on Darren's, he did it on Ed Tadeo's. He went on Ed Tadeo's live stream, and the first thing he said was something about which program to use. Should I use CSP or should I use... I'm like, dude, my God, just pick one. Just pick one and do something. Instead of asking the same damn question over and over and over again, it's a little bit, it's almost scary. You know, it's like freaky scary. Now, you know, maybe it turns out this guy is actually 9 years old. I don't know. You know, could be. But it's just like, really, dude? Everybody, you know, it's like, you know, you watch what I'm doing here. It's almost like you want to, it's like, and I know I've been guilty of this too, everybody is, but it's like you actually want to be delusional. Okay, so you're looking at what I'm doing here, and you see this takes hours, you know, we're going on and on and on for hours and days and weeks and months and years, and mostly, let's say, I'm using Krita. Okay, well, there's no mystery here. Look at what I'm doing. This is it. It's no prettier or uglier than this. This is what it is. Right? And then you're going to ask, you know, what program should I use? Seriously? Like in what would the mentality have been? You know, think about it. Let's go back to 1974. Okay, so we're in 1974 now. Time work. There's no software. If you want to do animation, you want to do animated storytelling, there's only one way. Basically, I mean, you can do claymation or whatever, right? So there is stop motion, but let's just say in this space, there's only one way. No, you're not going to spend a year bouncing between, you know, should I use a Hasbro number 2 pencil, or should I use a Smith & Johnson number 2 pencil? Oh, I just can't decide. It's so hard. It's so hard to decide. And if the right pencil came along, oh my God, then I'd be the next Disney. Really? That's like literally how stupid it is. It's so stupid. Just go do something, and then you'll find out for yourself and decide for yourself what you want to do. And by the way, you know, this is why I talk about the fear factors. The fear factors, you're going to find out that actually I don't really like this at all. That's what happened to me with CGI. I literally poked at CGI. I mean, I spent $4,000, I think, $4,000 on 3D Studio Max. I did all kinds of experimenting and poking around and kicking the tires in CGI, and then I'm like, well, there's Maya, and it does character animation better, so let's download the crack of Maya, and blah, blah, blah. And this is around the year 2000, and then Blender comes along. And I mean, this is something that's in the background of my life for like 15 years. So I've been that guy. 15 years. Poking at CGI. But what happened was there was a point where I actually did some pretty credible work in the CGI space. And what I realized was, you know what, I really actually don't even like this that much. Once I actually get into it and really do it, it's not my cup of tea. You know, it's okay. But especially now where since 2005, you're just seeing the same kind of ideas over and over and over anyway, you know? And it's great that it's become, you know, the tools have gotten better and it's cheaper to do. And so now we can actually have TV series that look better than, you know, really expensive movies 15 years ago. That's fine. That's fine. But I'm going, oh my God, this has been in the back of my, you know, my back of my story while I'm doing my commercial business. And I'm, you know, but it really did occupy a fairly large amount of my mental space for years. Only to find out that once I finally quit poking at the, you know, kicking the tires of this and that and looking for the magic tool, and I just hunkered down and did the work and found out, you know, actually after all this time, it turns out I really don't like this that well. It's okay, but it's just really not my cup of tea. Gee, it might have been better to find that out freaking 10 years earlier, maybe? Do you think? It's so stupid. So I'm not I speak from experience. I'm doing what I'm doing now because 3 years ago, I said to myself, you know what? My whole life, when I was in high school, I was the best artist in the school. And it was a school of, you know, our graduating class was like 500 kids. I mean, it wasn't small. And I'm just like, you know, I've put this part of me on the back burner because let me really explain this as I keep drawing here. I don't want to quit making progress on the drawing, but I do want to explain this. You know, when I was in high school, nobody encouraged me, okay? I basically had to trowel it out of my parents. You know, I'd have to show them what I was drawing because it was basically comic book stuff. I was sort of trying to channel Frazetta and John Buscema for the most part, with little hints of things like Jack Kirby in there, of course, from time to time. But basically, there was nobody to say, you know what, dude, you've got this. You know, just you're gonna have to work hard. You're gonna have to be disciplined, but you've got it. You can do this. Go do this. Just go do it, because if you do it, if you try and you don't give up, dude, you'll get there. Nobody, at no point in my life, in any arena, in the musical arena, in the art arena, as a writer, to a degree, I had it as a salesman, because my mentor, Mark was the most helpful because he recognized the value in a guy like me of just turning me loose. Just turn me loose in the studio and, you know, don't micromanage me. Just let me do what I'm going to do and see what happens. That was as close as it came. But for the most part, I never really had in any arena of life, I never had much at all in the way of encouragement. I had to beg for it. And I don't know that really matters that much, because as I've said earlier here, you know, at the end of the day, all that matters is what you do anyway. Did I just put that in the pencil test layer? No, I didn't. Good. But my point is that when you have that level of uncertainty. Okay, so his hand comes back to here, apparently. I'm going to leave that like that. When you have that level of uncertainty, you don't really have guideposts, you know, like you don't have boundaries on the road to like know what to do and have the confidence that you're going to, you know, get to wherever you think you're going to get to. And then what you tend to do, certainly what I did, was you look for other proxies in your life to make you feel good about yourself, you know. because at the end of the day, you're kind of afraid to fail at the thing that you really want to do. So I was able to do okay, and um, I did okay in business. It's not that hard to make money. You know what I mean? So you sort of look at that, and that becomes a way to compare yourself to others and sort of feel good about yourself. And there's nothing really wrong with that, I guess. I mean, it's it can carry you for a ways. And by contrast, actually, it's kind of like I was saying about the CGI thing, is you might finally have the courage to fully pursue your artistic vision, and you find out, it's cool, but it's not that great. That could very well happen. You find out it's just not. It's cool, but it's not that cool. You know what I mean? So some people would go down that creative road and finally realize their full creative vision and come to the conclusion that, what, I was happier just making money and being able to go sip margaritas on the beach. And I totally respect that. I think that's a totally legit place to land. It's just the thing is, you want to get there as quick as possible. Don't play these mind games. So that's why it's better to just engage with whatever it is you think you want to do, so that you can both find out if it's going to succeed or fail, and also whether it really truly is your cup of tea or not. Because I think that you can find out you thought what mattered to you once you really do it. You go, oh, I guess this wasn't actually that big of a deal to me after all. And I find it interesting how those unchased dreams can actually stay with you and carry you along without any real progress for years and years and years and years. You can waste a lot of time on that stuff. And I say that from experience. I feel like that's kind of what I did, and did good things come out of it in many ways? Absolutely. I mean, I could argue that making live action feature films was actually just a proxy because I had been doing the animation thing and never really getting anything done. As I say, I was poking at it. And so the live action movie thing was a collaborative thing. It was like me and my friend Dan, he was my best friend from high school. He's gone now, but passed away a few years ago. But the movie thing was something we could do together. It's like, let's go, let's just try, let's just go do this thing. It was fun. So as a thing to do with a good friend, it was a very cool thing to do. Let's see here. So now this hand comes up. So I need to get real specific here on the anatomy. Is there a point to anything you're saying here today? Yeah. The point is that I would say to anybody in this space is pick a tool and finish something. Pick a tool and finish something, because then you will get away from the seductive idea that's false, that somehow the answer to whether this is going to be wonderful or not is in the tool, as opposed to it being in the process and the actual labor of it, because the labor of it reveals the things that you have to deal with. So like, and what we learned today is a great example of it. The fact of the matter is that you stop drawing to erase hundreds of times a day, right? So the ability to do that in a way that is less problematic is a big win. It's a stupidly huge win. And it really doesn't. And what I would maintain is that this is what happens with all tools. It's going to be true with OpenTunes. It has been true, in fact. I've seen it happen, where the more you work with the tool and you go and you just take an hour and go reread the docs again. New ideas just come to you. You go, oh, that's what I can do. That's how I can do that. Okay, cool. Let's go give that a try. Right? And you just figure it out. Brick by brick. Okay, so then Vespigi starts moving. So, okay, so we can ink the hands. Might as well ink the hands, friends. My exhortations in this regard, you can be sure, let me see, I'm looking at what his body weight does. His body weight really does shift around here. So here, honestly, I mean, you could argue for redrawing it, but I think in this case, maybe I'll just go ahead and do this. And then that's the one where I chose to redraw. So fine. Okay, so now we just need to get the hand in there correctly. And of course, as you can see, the only frame in the whole timeline, the only frame that wasn't in the cache right there was the one I needed to see. Pretty amazing. Pretty amazing. Boom. Whoops. A key. We'll just move this over here. That's fine. I mean, you could, I'm not going to extol the virtues of the other drawing. I think it's probably like okay, but all right, so he has his weight shifting here. So I think just for fun, I'm going to take this hand, go to the next key, and I'm going to go ahead and paste it in and allow it to drop out of frame like that. Just because this hand's coming up. So, all right. How are we doing on time? Wow, 2 hours already? Holy smokes. 2 hours. Okay, back to the B key. And does the hand appear here? It does. Okay, so here we need to hit that eraser. And probably we should, let's hit the selection tool. Let's shrink this just a little bit. I think that's just a little too big. Okay, back to the ink layer. We don't want a selection. Hit the X key so we've got our ink. And now we can do our job effectively. You got more done in one program than trying to find out which tool it is. Well, you know, that's why I've been kind of staying in Krita for the most part. Just need to figure out how to apply more fundamentals in my animation. That's why I mentioned, well, with you, done the same thing since '97. Yep. Never liked the rigging. Yeah, rigging is such an art all of its own. It's never the tool, it's a skill, dedication, application of the artist. That's why I switched to the ballpoint pens ages ago, because I hate to erase. Yeah, to each his own on the whole ballpoint pen thing. To each his own. I'm gonna redraw this. Let me see what else we have here. Whoops. Okay. I'm gonna redraw this. And then do we have, yes, okay, then the hand opens. So let's just get rid of that. And then here we'll get rid of that. So switch back. What time is it? 11:52. It's almost noon. Zuko. Val comes along. Zuko says, "Hey, babe." I think he's quoting me. He is quoting me. So today, what is the goal? The goal is to get basically this shot is what I'm going to try to get done. Now I am thankful that we decided not to rototill the garden. So that means that that gives me a couple hours ostensibly that I could use here. It's all good. It's all good. I'm gonna solo this, take a break, probably eat a banana, be back in a few. But I'm back. Well, I think I'll leave the webcam off for a while just to shake things up. Okay, actually that's a good place to stop right there, because we do need to draw a Golek. Okay, now that's interesting. Guess we need to draw him here. Ink. Alright, we need to do a little bit of dot connection, and we'll use that eraser trick, or as Darren would say, eraser. That's a little off, isn't it? How's he moving? He's kind of moving forward, not backward, so. What are you singing, Zuko? Zuko loves music. I'd hit a D chord on the guitar and I'd just sing a note, you know? I was trying to teach him to sing, and sure enough, after a couple weeks, he started going la la. Is that your note, Zuko? What's your singing note? La. I think that's it. Sing to me, buddy. He says, want a chip? Apparently he wants a chip. I got no chips for you, Zooks. No, it isn't chip time. Okay, that looks stupid. I'm gonna flip this. So the basic problem with working with a character that's so small on the screen is you keep having to move the screen around when you flip it, because it doesn't flip on the axis of what you're looking at. Not the end of the world, but a thing, I guess. I'm going to turn these off. I'm going to actually do the flipping thing here for a bit. Let's flip him back around. Flipping meaning flipping between cells. Yeah, because when I don't know, other people may have a different experience, but for me, when I use the onion skins, I have a tendency to, especially when the changes are fairly small. Here we're just trying to inject a little variety into the thing, and as you can see, that it's all goofed up. So, like I said, other people may have a different opinion about it, but for me, I definitely prefer flipping, and that's like in the complete wrong space. He looks a little fatter here in this shot, so let's just kind of start erasing and fixing things. I may regret this, you know, because staying on character is definitely one of my weaknesses. Staying on character. Okay. Let's see. And what do we have here? This is interesting. You know what I think? I actually think I'm going to backpedal a little bit. I think I see what my mistake here is. Through this section, let me just take these out. I'm going to just take this out. I'm going to start over, because one of the quintessential mistakes for me tends to be, and I've done it here and I just kind of didn't really realize I was doing it. So one of my great mistakes is to go from a rough pencil test, animatic kind of thing. I'll keep that one. That one's okay, although it does need some modification. But I have this proclivity to go from rough pencil test straight to ink, and then I wind up with the kinds of inconsistencies that I'm seeing here in the work. So it's like, let's backpedal. Let's backpedal a little bit. And so what the mistake is, and the way it happens is, you've got a rough, and I draw the character the first time, and then I start reusing pieces and translating them around. So there's nothing wrong with that. That's a good technique. But the problem is, like what we see right here, is that if I want to re-ink it, I need to go back to the pencil test and finish the job, right? I need to go ahead and do a proper pencil test so that I've got something to ink over where I'm not just sort of guessing. And the point is that it requires being sort of sketchy, which of course you really can't do with the ink very well. I mean, it would then require a fairly laborious cleanup process. So what I'm saying is, let's just finish the pencil test. So we're not guessing. Yeah, this is way better. Now you're starting to sing over there, Zuko. Put the center line in there. Okay. Now we're getting back on track a bit. Well, it's always a trade-off between more drawing versus less drawing, basically. Okay. That's fine. Let's get the center line on the hat. It flattens out. It starts to go arcing up more. Cool. So here, 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 here. Okay, that's about right. Okay, and really the ink should probably be turned off now. Well, no, I guess I do need that keyframe as a guide. So here, and now this is going to be the one that's a little tricky. Pretty much a straight ahead shot. So let's get the structure right and be careful not to have his head growing. And then probably once we get to here, I would expect we're probably going to start reusing the ink again. So, I mean, this is the hardest thing to do, is a three-quarter, or I should say a three-dimensional turn. A straight turn in 3D space. Yeah, when I work this way, I tend to get pretty good results if I'm vigilant not to let the character start drifting. You know, drifting out of character, so to speak. Yeah, this is looking fine. Mm-hmm. Okay, so here we got something like that. And that's probably going to be about like that. Whoops. Yeah, once I get to here, I should be able to just reuse the ink for those little tweens right there. So, but for the turn, I want to sort of let it have that sort of loose feeling of drawing instead of, you know, liquefying or whatever you're doing to sort of cobble some reuse out of your drawings. I like it. That's probably the weakest one of the three, but it's interesting that these drawings that are fresh, clean drawings actually, for me, look a lot better. So anyway, that's something I need to remember. If I'm going to do the proper pencil test, then freaking finish the job. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. Yeah, and I really like that pose there. That one looks really good. Okay, so let's zoom out and see what we've got. Just hit play and suffer through it, because in order to refresh the animation cache. Yeah, this is exactly what Golik needs to do. Because Vespigi is saying that this is an insult. And Golik says, to each and every one of you. He's trying to turn it. The idea is he's trying to make sure he gets the audience on board with this conspiracy theory that he is crafting with Vespigi's almost somewhat unwitting help. Okay, so now let's start looking at this. Okay, now we'll leave it. We'll stop there, because that's where we're going to let the ink start getting some reuse. So what do we have here? I guess that really is about all there is to it. Boom. And then we'll let that settle. Don't forget gravity. So right there, we'll let it, we're actually letting it flow a little bit in space. That's fine. Like so. Okay, so now this is kind of important, that this contour in the original sketch was in the wrong place, so I need to fix that. Definitely, it was way swinging too low. And here I would say that contour on the top was likewise too high. So I just got a little sloppy there, folks. Little sloppy. Okay, that looks pretty good. Okay. Oh yes. Here, boom. Here, this in the ink, this needs to be erased. That hand does not want to be there anymore. Okay, so now we're probably down to 0, or looks like 1 concurrent viewer, so nobody's watching. And why would they? Why would anyone ever want to watch the boring grunt work of Animation. I certainly couldn't understand why anyone would ever want to watch such a thing. Okay, so hand thrusts out there. Max, hey Max. I didn't know you were here. I guess you are a lurker though, aren't you? Nothing wrong with that. I appreciate you lurking around. I don't know if anything I've done or said today is, useful to you, but here's hoping, friend. Okay, so we've got that obviously needing to be inked. So in the ink layer, let's do this. Let's grab that, Control C. Let's go back one frame and hit Control. Well, actually, I think what we need to do here, let me see. Oh, I see it. Thrusts out like that. And there it is. Seemingly on the wrong frame, though. It's a little strange. It could be something to do with animation caching. I don't know. I'm going to say let's let that fall a little bit. Fall. Okay, cool. Fine. That's fine. We'll take it. Okay, and then let's go back to Vespigi here. Did we ever ink this? We never did ink this. So I am going to go ahead and take a half second and deal with this. Whoops, I want to be, excuse me, I want to be in the ink color. This is again one of those things that we can be a little bit loosey-goosey with, considering that it's such a wide shot. Again, kind of going for that very linear Alex Toth kind of thing. I'm not going to worry about the transition between the two characters. I'm not going to worry about now. I'm going to leave it blank and then connect the dots later when it makes sense to do so, because there's going to be some cut and pasting on the Golic side of things. Vespigi should essentially have we don't see his pupils in his eyes or anything like that. This is very, very, as I say, this is Alex Toth style, baby. Very bold, simple, straight lines of fairly uniform thickness. That's a look that I really like. And it just works, it just works. Okay, so now here, as I say, now we can use Liquify to sort of bring this around to where it's supposed to be. This type of thing works really well. Yeah, there's a slight change. He kind of turns and then back. Turns and then thrusts back. Okay, fine. Probably here, the way to do it would be to hit the A key and actually just have a rotation. And then, as I say, here, it kicks back. Yeah, that works. Okay, so now what we need to do is grab the hand. Right here. Hit the S key. Grab that. Control C. And now let's just follow the pencil test. So we're just taking the stuff that's hard, that's fairly rigid, like there's no reason to like redraw it over and over, and just reusing it. like so. So we're getting close to the point, honestly, where most of the hard work of the ink is actually done, because everything that remains to go in there has pretty much been drawn. So with that in mind, let's go in and start. We'll forget about Carliana. I don't care about her. No offense, Carliana, but let's just start going through here and seeing what we can clean up. So this I want to really turn down, and now go into the ink. Okay, so here these guys are on the same layer, so I'm not gonna try to I'm not putting them on other layers so that overlapping doesn't matter. Overlapping does matter. In this case, everything's butted up against each other. And so here, let's just erase that. And obviously here we're into a final key pose, so we want to probably actually strike that. That's wrong. This is really going to be something like this. And then he snaps up to that position. And then we'll be able to basically reuse that pose here. Okay, fine. So let's do that. S key. Let's just grab everything that we know is going to repeat. And now let's go through here. And Control Shift V. I'm going to make him slightly, well, no, actually that's a bad idea. Strike that. There's too much stuff that comes later where he's going to be the same size. So let's just do that. Control Shift V. Control Shift V. Okay. Now in these poses, we're going to have to get Golik in there. Does anything change from there to there? It looks like not. It looks like that's just a kind of a resting place. So since Golik is moving, maybe give him a tiny bit of a move there. Whoops. Sorry, what I need to do is go like that. And then go Control C, Control Shift V. Okay, and here I can tell from the onion skins he's going to move a little bit. Ooh. And then we just realized two things. Number one, of course, everything that needs to be in the animation cache isn't. Everything that doesn't matter that I don't need to see is in the animation cache. Everything I do need to see isn't. Typical Krita. So we got this major change in characterization in Vespigi right there, which is like completely unacceptable. This is totally unacceptable. I didn't realize I had done that, and it's a little embarrassing, but screw it. We're going to just actually, I'm just going to delete it and redo it, because this is more accurate to the character. Now, if we want to, so yeah, we'll go Control C. So Golik's moving around. Control C. And then what did we say? We wanted to have this slight move. Slight move. Control C. And then actually Control C again. And Control V. Control Shift V, I should say. Okay. And we can always go in and modify his facial expression a little bit. That's not a problem. The thing I wanted to see is when his hand moves, and of course, as you can see, everything is in the animation cache except what I want to see. I just don't know why that is. Maybe if you just like let go and wait 3 seconds, Krita sort of catches up. I'm just not sure. It's a bit weird. Okay. Now, we're going to go back to beginning and start scanning through here. Let's turn the skins off. See what we've got. Yes, okay, so here, boom, we need to have the hand. So let's go B key, and let's see what we have here. Right there, the fingers come up. So let's go like this. I'm not going to concern myself with the rest of this stuff that needs to be filled in. I want to get this motion correct first. Okay. So now, obviously, you can see an issue. So let's go like this. Well, let's clean, well, yeah, okay. Let's clean this up a little bit first. Okay. Control C. Zoom out, and so this is a lot of what we're doing here is just fixing things up. Okay, that worked. Then he's, well, actually, here, it appears that this is going to be, at the very least, okay, yeah, so Golik's hands go behind his back, as I recall. So let's grab that. Okay, and now let's fix it. Whoops. B key, not the... Let's get rid of this garbage. And now let's fix the final pose so that we can then cut and paste in the repeats. That's pretty straightforward, right? Okay, so through this whole thing, everything that's moving is Vespigi, so that's fine. So let's grab Golek, Control C, Control Shift V, Control Shift V. Now let's see what happens here. Let's fill the animation cache. Golek moves around, and then, yeah, you know, we're on track. Looks like we're on track. Good. I better save my work, though. I haven't saved my work in a while. Okay. Now there's a few things to patch. Since we know that this section up to about frame 88 is looking good, let's go ahead and start finding the mistakes. Right there. Okay, so this region right here is a region of interest. Let's put it that way. Okay, and this one we want to be careful. We're not, if it chatters a little on just a couple frames, we're not going to notice it because Golek's head is moving. Golek's going to be demanding our attention at that point. So that's fine. Here, his hair sort of falls over. I'm going to cheat and not show the purple of the garment right there. Good time to turn on the skins just to match that. Oh, there we go. We're good. So that probably, I can turn those back off again. Okay, we go to the close-up. Better hit the N key just to see if things are anything objectionable. Okay, so let's turn the pencil test back up a little bit and start fixing this. Boom. This really needs to be a little bit more, okay, sorry. This is supposed to be in the ink layer. Okay, so he's going to be foreshortened, so we'll try to make that play here. So his elbow would be right about there, and as you can see, again, important, he is foreshortened. So this is a little too much baggage there on the cloth, but basically that did the trick. Okay, so now we're cutting back from the other shot, so now we can go ahead and make a correction here just to make that more correct-ish. This has him a little too fat, you might say, so let's just move that in a bit. That looks good. Okay, now we'll turn the skins back on so we can get this stretching up like that, stretching up like that. Now coming down again a little bit. And then that's a static pose that's going to just repeat. So here we got this. And then let's just kind of, whoops, I switched frames when I didn't mean to. So let's go back one, forward one. I just hit the wrong hotkey there. Okay. And I don't trust Krita. I don't actually believe that what I'm seeing on frame 81 is even what's really in frame 81. It looks like it is though, so. Okay. Okay, so Vespigi doesn't change position, and we get here, and he still doesn't, actually. So this is all wrong. This needs to be this. So we'll do a selection, Control C, and then let's go here, Control Shift V. Next key, still the same, as Bob Seger would say, still the same. Caught up with you yesterday. Okay, so now the overlap I'm not going to concern myself with. We just want to let that pose prevail, and then here I'm going to go through with liquefy now in just a little bit and just mod that a little bit. Okay, and then I'm going to reselect it and see what this stuff is. Okay, Control V. I'm going to do the same thing again. Just make a small mod on this based on the fact that Vespigi's kind of position is just changing a little bit. Control C, Control V, and then here I would say, okay, why did it just freaking disappear? Control C, Control Shift V. We're gonna have to clean up that connection point up there up top. But A key, liquefy, back here, yes. Okay, so this is gonna actually come out a little bit again. We're gonna have to fix the shoulder, obviously. Okay, and then from here on, this is all a bunch of tweens, so here I'm gonna redraw the darn thing. Yep, we'll redraw it from there. Okay, cool. So now let's go back to about here, turn the skins off and see what we've got. Okay, back to the B key. We don't want the eraser. Next keyframe, next keyframe. All I'm concerned about now is the bottom of his arm. I would say, since he moves down here, but we're repeating this over a bunch of frames, I would say we want to probably push this in just a little bit on this frame. Again, shoulder needs to be fixed, but okay. Yeah, there we go. So now he's in a static position more or less while Golik dances around. Okay? Thank you, Darren, for that hotkey. Golik dances, dances, dances. Now we do have a problem. So I say let's fix the shoulder right there. Fix the shoulder there. I'm sorry, there. And once again, Krita is showing us everything except literally the very frame we want to see. Its capacity for doing that is kind of startling, actually. Okay, that's really a one-frame tween. Okay. Hair. Play. Okay, that will not work. That's stupid, obviously. So we'll select this region right here, cut it out, Control C, Control Shift V. So there's many aspects of what I'm doing here today that are in some ways harder than they need to be because I've got so much stuff that's repeating within a single frame. Okay, so here, that's interesting. There's a small shift. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually grab this bit here, delete that out, Control Shift V, and then adjust it like that to make it work. And now we're going to have to do that on a bunch of frames. Delete, Control Shift V, just because this is all. Why did that just happen? Okay, why did that just happen? Seriously, dude? Seriously? That's what you're gonna do, huh? Okay. And again, the Krita animation cache, as you can see, the key thing I'm trying to look at is the only thing that doesn't play back accurately. Everything else is fine. Only the stuff you want to see is what doesn't play back. So we need to get to this entire sequence up to 103. So I'm saying it out loud so I remember. Okay. So here's what we're going to do. There's a little tweak right there that's wrong. Okay, so I'm going to take this whole region, pretty big because I've got nice closed shapes there. And I'm going to go back one and delete that, Control Shift V. Okay, so now I should be able to go through and, okay, got it. There's where the mistake was. So let's put that in there and adjust this. And now Control C, recopy that to the clipboard. There we go. So actually up through 103, I believe it was. Okay, there we've got a shift. And I am going to select that, and then I'm going to go ahead and liquefy that back into shape right there. Okay. Control C. And again, boom. We're getting there, people. We are getting there. Okay, and then this can be clipped out and redrawn. Cool. Okay, so obviously again, never trust Krita's animation cache. It's always going to be wrong. Just so you know. As long as you know it's always going to be wrong, like it's as stupid as possible, then you can at least you can move forward and know what you need to do to mitigate how, you know, like mind-numbingly stupid it is. I wish I was being, you know, unnecessarily snarky, but it's really true. It's really, really, really true. Kind of startling, kind of crazy. Probably that needs to be redrawn too. Okay, so now let's go through. What we're going to do here is we're going to play Inker. And just do this the old school way. Okay, then zoom in, and you know you're going to have some gaps here, so let's just make sure we're closing our shapes. And Krita's interface is freezing, so we'll just go boom, boom, and even that's not working. So basically at this point, as of a moment ago, everything quit working. Oh, it's working again. Okay. So here, there's the issue there. Here, let's erase that, and now, okay, that's all going to be inked separately, so slight shift in weight there. So when we get to here, again, hit the play button and fill the animation cache because I needed to see this frame, and so of course it's not even a question, it's axiomatic that that frame will be the only frame in the entire freaking timeline that you can't actually look at and see what's really there. Oh my goodness. It is so incredible to me. It really boggles the mind. You know, I'm not exaggerating when I say I really wish I was actually being overly snarky, and that what I'm saying it's not really that stupid, but it is. It happens over and over. That's one advantage that I will chalk up to OpenTunes or to Homa compared to Krita. At least when you play frames into Homa, you do in fact see what's really in that frame. Hopefully this will be something that gets fixed in Krita. Like, I haven't ever done like bug reports or anything, so I cannot claim to have done my part to help them squash bugs. So I am an irresponsible citizen, without a doubt. So I don't have anything to complain about, really. It's more a matter of just giving an appropriate warning. Just be prepared. Be prepared, friends. And by the way, I don't remember Krita 4 being like that. I remember Krita 4 being... this is something that's been kind of unique to Krita 5. This idea that the animation cache is always off. Just the appropriate amount to make it harmful to your workflow. So I was being a little snarky earlier. I was joking about the developers. You say, okay, you got this animation timeline with 160 frames. Okay. So now if you really want to have fun, really, really mess with the people using the software, like really jack them around, what would you do? You'd say, well, okay, the animation, what we'll do is whatever frame you're on, that's the only frame in the timeline that actually doesn't show accurately. That'll get them. Yeah, I'm sure they didn't do that. I don't believe they did that. I'm just being snarky. Little change in the clothing there. So, I do like working that way. Just, you know, build out these contours and then connect the dots, so to say. So here we've got this to this to this, right? And we know we're going to have a wrinkle there. So boom, boom, boom. The danger of this way of working is it's really easy to have little holes in your ink that you miss. And so then you go to do color and you wind up getting leaks more often than you might prefer. But there it is. I'm going to turn the skins on so that for this section I can just kind of go like that. And now it appears to me that literally nothing is updating. And I hit play and nothing happens. That's a little creepy, isn't it? That's a little creepy, friends. Creepy, I say. It's like a grindhouse movie, you know, it's so bad it's good. Okay, we were dealing with this. Let's get that elbow in there. Okay, that's fine. Okay, so what we want to do is get this contour here. Boom, 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 and boom. Yep. And now we can, as I say, connect the dots, so to speak. And I'm not going to do too much to imply the foreshortening yet. Okay. Here we're going to start to see the elbow come in. Like so. Maybe a little indication there, little wrinklage. Stretch back out. Okay, we're getting pretty close here, friends, actually. Let's zoom in here. Okay, I guess we're actually very close. Let's erase that. Was there a, yep, there's a little gap right there. Okay, that keyframe right there is not supposed to be in there. Boom. So we're at 3 hours on this shot. Let's turn the pencil test off, and let's turn the onion skins off to see what we have at this point. We're getting close to the point where it's just color, which is a good thing because that means this shot will be done in it'll be done in 6 hours, I expect. Maybe not quite, but let's go ahead and deal with Golix ink now. Okay, here I guess what we wanted to do was reuse that. Control C. Let's go to the next keyframe. Control Shift V. Little shift. And then we got to re-ink. So here we go. B key. Let's redo that line. And I believe that's actually our final pose. So this is the one we're going to be looking at for a while. You can see Golik's almost looking a little bit cheerful. His eyebrows are softening a bit. Boom. Bony cheeks. Bony cheeks. And he does have lip sync through this whole section, by the way. He will be yakking. Yakking, my friends. This is a one frame tween. Actually doesn't matter that much, as long as it's not deviating too much. Actually, all of these are one frame tweens. We have a little latitude on the characterization. Not to get too sloppy and lazy about it, but we do have some latitude. Okay. Ears. Ears. Jowls. Jowls. One frame tween again. This is not. This is where we land, people. Boom. Oh, that sucked. Okay. Use the Bezier path tool. Put a little bit of curvature there on the helmet. Okay, that was not exact. That was not exact. Close enough for rock and roll. That actually belongs there. Didn't like that. Let's do it again. 2. Okay. Here, I would say we can grab this. And exclude this. Control C. Control Shift V. Okay, that's kind of an interesting eventuality. Okay, so I'm going to go like that. And now I'm going to liquefy this just a little bit. Flatten that out. And flatten that out. We'll connect the dots here shortly. Control C. Yeah, I think we'll stop there with that business. Okay. And we've got that. So this one we will go backwards. Control C. Back one frame. Control Shift V. Get that lined up. And pretty much get that where it needs to be. B key. We'll erase that. Whoops. Back one frame. Forward one frame. That's good. Control Shift A. Save our work. Okay, so now we'll select this entire kit and caboodle. Control C. Let's go to the zoom out so we can see what's going on here. And then here in the pencil test, well, actually, let's just hit the A key. According to the pencil test, this is basically what happens. Okay, so let's actually select this carefully so we're not selecting part of the speaky. Control C, Control Shift V. So as I say, this pose of Golik just repeats, as will most of his body through most of that sequence. Save our work. Control Shift A. Boom, boom. B key, boo doo doo, choo doo doo. B key, actually erase that. Shoo. 5 key. Again, we'll deal with connecting the dots and closing the spaces here shortly. But first I want to that's not right. That's not right. Okay. That's going to repeat from there. Yep, right there. So now we can connect that up. Connect that up. Okay, again, that's all going to repeat. Okay, skin's off. And frankly, probably the pencil test off as well. Repeat. Mm-hmm. Okay, now nothing's updating. Wow. Nothing was updating, friends. Fortunately, these are... that doesn't work. Nope. This line has to be spot on because we're not in a tween anymore. Let's turn this on and see what we have. Well, I guess part of the art of animation is learning where you can slough a little bit and fool the audience, basically. Okay, so here we need a little indication of the gold thingy dingy, which of course, as we all know, is officially, in fact, called a thingy dingy. Okay, we're going for the silhouette kind of feeling here. Okay. Alright, let's zoom in here and clean this up. Zoop, 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 zoop. Okay, so now what we have to do is hit the selection and grab this region right here, Control C. Stop, undo, undo, undo. Sometimes you can get yourself in a pickle by just inadvertently hitting one wrong hotkey. And you wind up paying a pretty big price for it. So the idea here is that as his weight is shifting around, this is what stays constant through that business. See that? So there. One, two, erase, erase, hello, erase, erase, erase. What a wonderfully zen process to actually be erasing the same thing over and over and over and over. OMG. Here we have the same situation as before, actually, because all the movement is happening with Vespigi. So Control C, Control Shift V, delete, Control Shift V, delete, Control Shift V. Next keyframe. So, yeah, I don't know if I would necessarily do it this way again. It seems like the great mistake is just the same one as always, which is packing too many shots into a single animated sequence. It just becomes enormously complicated. Okay, we said that was going to repeat. So now we're going to be doing a bunch of cutting and pasting. So therefore, right here, let's get the wrinkles and the details kind of sort of where they need to be. Because now, as you can see, this is going to be repeating over quite a little period of time. Now, it's not that long of a period of time. It's about a couple seconds, actually. Control C, Control Shift V, Control Shift V. So, as I say, you know, working on separate layers would make all this a lot simpler. But that's okay. No big deal. Let's go up here and let's make this fix in Golix. Yeah, I'm actually, I got him off size a little bit, but I'm kind of glad I did because he's supposed to be leaning in a bit. Leaning forward towards the audience. I don't know if I quite played that off successfully, but we'll see. Control C. Oh, well, okay. Well, let's go Control Shift V and just, yeah, forget that. That's a stupid idea. Okay, so B key. As long as he's on the move like this, we might as well redraw it. So do 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 do. Okay, there's where he stops moving. So this, now we can do that. Control C, Control Shift V, Control Shift V, Control Shift V. Okay, cool. Okay. So now, actually, is everything over here looking pretty good? I think it is. Nope, not quite. Not quite. Right there. In fact, actually, let's look back at this. Yes. Okay, right there. There must be a selection. Control Shift A. And indeed there was. Okay. Let's zoom out and get some perspective here. That's not the greatest shot right there ever, but it is a one frame tween, so. Let's grab this, Control C, Control V. Up, that did the trick. All right, so now this part up here is gonna have to get dialed in. Again, Control Shift A, so there's no selection going on. That. Okay, again, same thing. Same thing. That right there is wrongo. So I'm going to go select once again. We're just going to go like that. Copy that to clipboard. Delete that. Paste it in. Paste it in. Paste it in. Paste it in. Keep pasting it in. Oh, well, yeah, stupid. I'm not going to the next frame. That would explain. Okay, why do we have right here Control C, Control V, and then on the next frame, so we got these two frames right here. Is anything else changing? Let me see about. No, this is an erroneous keyframe right here. Control Shift X, gone. Okay. So I think we got the holes patched there. And now we've got to do the same thing through here. Okay. B key. And by the way, you guys, I'm gonna bail and quit soon. And figure on coming back and getting the color probably this evening, I think. That's what I'm thinking anyway. 1, 2, 3. Okay, is that erroneous as well? Yeah, as far as I can tell, this is an erroneous keyframe. Okay. Okay, he's all dressed in purple. Now if we go forward to here, of course he comes off again. Most unfortunately, yes, and once again, Krita updates everything except the one frame. Literally, the one frame that you need to see is the one that doesn't update. Yeah, that is crazy stuff. Crazy stuff. Okay, so what we're going to do here is we're just going to put an indication right there of the fingers and then allow them to fall off. Okay, so now what we've got is S key here, Control Shift V, Control Shift V, and I'm just looking for something that's going to be a red flag, and there it is. Okay. Okay, so this is pretty microscopic, baby. Boom. Okay, might as well go back here, because look, leak, leak, leak. Leak, leak, leak. Noise. Okay, so now we're back into movement, so that's good. Okay. Boom. Boom. Okay, and from there, Vespiki stays the same. So let's finish that. That. And let's get the link to his body in there so that we can then grab this. Nope, stop. That's not what we want. We want this up to that little tangent right there. Control C, Control Shift V, Control Shift V, and before we go any further, liquefy that into shape. And it didn't do us any good, so undo, 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 undo. B key. 1, 2, 1, 2. Let's go back here. So yeah, this is as brutal as it gets. This is where we need onion skins. And turn the freaking pencil test off, because what I have to do here is trace this, or I'll never get it to, you know, I'm just like really pissing in the wind trying to do it any other way, actually. That will look fine. Oh, problem. 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 Lots and lots of problems to fix. Oh yes. It seems endless. But that's the last frame, so. Okay, let's go back to the onion skins and just allow that to serve as a reference. Okay, it looks like that's the end. So let's go back here, and again, this is a matter of just keeping this as simple as possible and using the onion skins to cheat. Now, since Vespigi's on the move, we've got a little bit of latitude. Well, until we get there. At that point, we have no latitude. We have to trace it, and trace it reasonably well. That part is easier because he's moving around. Okay, so now there was one thing that was still missing pretty glaringly. I can't remember what it was. Actually, it might be just purely a matter of patching obvious holes, just finding little gaps. I think it is. I think it is. I think that's where we're at. Okay, so we'll turn the skins off, and what shot is this? This is 648, so let's render this. 648, 648. Okay, so apparently this is already in the show. So we've saved our work. Looks like our ink is done. Other than we're gonna find some gaps. I will guarantee there's gonna be some. There will be some holes, you know, leaks going on. But let's just jump back over to Vegas and see what we have. Let's just kind of look at the flow out of the previous shots. Right now we are at 3:30, so that means essentially I have an hour and a half. Is, you know, according to my goal, would be another hour and a half to finish this shot. It seems like there was something else. After he punches his fist out there. I want to look at this on the big screen. Let's go to best full. Okay, I do feel like the ink lines are a little bit bold for what I really prefer. So I might have to do a little curves operation on those, but that's okay. I would say it looks pretty good. Golik's hand seems a little large there at the end of the shot. Yeah, that hand looks stupid as can be. So I want to fix that. But yeah, I think I'm ready to quit. I think I'm going to quit, and this will be a good time to to bail, because it's almost straight up an hour and a half left. So I've got an hour and a half left to do what? In an hour and a half, my goal would be to fix Golik's hand. This one. And there's a little problem right there. I can see. With Golik's thumb is missing. Yeah, so this is what I was talking about. Is there's going to be some mistakes for sure. But I'll tell you, one thing I definitely could consider doing right now is grab this hand, because this hand looks really good. Control C, Control Shift V, A key, flip it, cut it to the clipboard, and then there we go, Credos cache updated. So let's go here, and what we would be wanting to do is probably grab the yellow and the hand and cut them away, and then Control Shift V. I think I like that. And what I'm going to do, let me see here, as I recall, this all stays the same. So that's good. That actually just kind of salvaged the shot. Or at least it did salvage the shot, except that I can't see the change. Look at it's gone. Why is it gone? Because like I said, look at this. Every single frame in the timeline is in the memory cache except the one frame where I made the change. It's so stupid that it's funny, actually. It's truly, truly so dumb it's funny. So we're in the ink layer here. And why is it not showing? Oh, I see. This is the keyframe here. Okay. Wow. OMG, he says. Okay, so what I'm going to do is actually... there must be a selection because I'm drawing and nothing's happening. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a fairly big selection here. Excuse me, friends. All right, Control C, And then what I'm going to do is on every single one of these frames, I'm going to smack that back in there. Because, wow, that was not a good drawing there, Dave. That's amazing. Hands will get you in trouble. 2 more. Delete, paste. Delete. Oh, I'm sorry. Delete, paste. Paste being Control-Shift-V. And by the way, unfortunately, I have horrible news. I've got to go through the whole process again of fixing and fixing and fixing because now this is all broken. So I don't care. I'm going to just... There. I'm not going to waste a bunch of freaking time with it. I'm going to just erase it all so I can just redraw it because it's going to be faster, a lot faster probably to just reanimate this. Okay, so we got this. Let's turn on the skins. And right there, actually, yes, there Golek stops moving. So there we go. Control C, Control Shift V. Okay, that's it. I believe that's it. Save our work. And now that gives us essentially an hour and a half to do all the ink and smack in the background. The background should be pretty easy because I'm going to be able to repurpose old background. Now the only thing in this whole thing that is still pretty questionable, frankly, is it's been the bane of my existence on this whole sequence, by the way, is the top of Golek's hat. We got some earlier shots where the hat really looked different. I don't think I'm going to sweat it. I'm going to actually change this to 3 pixels and see if I can just go through this whole darn thing and boom. 1. You know, it's just a Bezier curve operation anyway, so boom, 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 boom. Okay, we got the close-ups, and then here, okay. All right, so now I believe I could take the top of my hat. Okay, here we're gonna have to move it a little bit, make it work. So let's stop there. Control Shift V. This is where you want to put an anchor point down here so that this can just rotate into position. And back to the Bezier tool. Boom, boom, drag. Control C, Control Shift V. Okay, I'm going to stop there. I'm starting to run out of gas and sort of lose patience. So all we have to do is get the top of the hat in there, and then we can color the darn thing, and it won't be taking too long. So with that, I quit. Max has already put see you later 7 minutes ago. All right.